So tonight I was helping my son study for a history quiz, and his history textbook is covering the Neo-Babylonian Empire and talking a little bit about Nebuchadnezzar. And so it talked about Daniel 4, which is the story of Nebuchadnezzar becoming like a beast as a result of God's judgment against him. And his textbook asked a question which I found kind of odd. I couldn't answer. It said, how does Nebuchadnezzar's letter in Daniel 4, in which he relates this story of his becoming like a beast, how does that relate to Genesis 3:15? Well, we looked up Genesis 3:15, and it's the verse about enmity between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. And I read through Daniel 4, and I didn't really see any connection to Genesis 3:15. So I figured, well, this has got to be a typo of some sort. Genesis 3:15 is a pretty major verse, and they probably meant something else, and just accidentally put 3:15 in. So, but how to find what the question really should be? How do you do that? And it occurred to me, well, we have the infer command in Accordance. I can use the infer command to look for any verse in the book of Daniel that relates to any passage in Genesis 3. So here I've got Daniel 4 and I've got Genesis 3:15 displayed. I'm going to show you what I did and how I solved the riddle of what this question really should have been asking. So you have Genesis 3:15 here. I'm going to just do a search for all of Genesis 3. And I'm going to drag the context slider here to 0 additional verses. So this now just shows Genesis 3 in this particular window. This will become the base text that I'm going to use the infer command to find inferences to. So I'm going to go over here to my window, my tab that has Daniel 4, and I'm going to insert the infer command. And it will ask me, well, what tab do I want to link to? I want to link to ESV with Strong's 2 because that's where my base text is. And I can look for words or for key numbers, and I can look for a certain number of words in the phrase, and so on. I'm just going to change this to 5. Sometimes the default is 6, and I found 5 worked better in this case. Through a little bit of trial and error, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and do 5. And so we'll click OK. This inserts the infer command, and it basically says, look for any 5-word phrase from Genesis 3 that is mirrored in Daniel 4. And there's some slop built into this, some fuzziness built in, so that it may find 4-word phrases or 6-word phrases that are similar to 5-word phrases in Genesis 3. I'm going to click the plus icon here and add a range. So I'm going to set the range for this search to the book of Daniel. So now I'm just searching the book of Daniel for inferences to Genesis 3. And let's go ahead and perform that search. And you can see even though this is a sophisticated search, it is instantaneous in returning the results. And I'm interested in Daniel 4, so let's go down to Daniel 4. And so places in Daniel 4 where there's a connection to Genesis 3. We get a tree in the midst of the earth. Okay, we can see that is connected to the tree in the midst of the garden, right? And then Daniel 4, there's a reference to the beasts of the field found shade under it. And Daniel 4:21, the beasts of the field found shade. 4:23, let his portion be with the beasts of the field. So beasts of the field seems to be the big winner. That you shall be driven from among men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. You shall be made to eat grass like an ox, and so on. Now this verse especially sounds like the curses that Genesis 3:15 is a part of. So we seem to be getting somewhere in terms of a passage in Daniel 4 that is related to Genesis 3:15 as part of the curses of Genesis 3. But how do we know exactly what verse in Genesis 3 Daniel 4:25 is linking back to? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to control click or right click on the verse reference, Daniel 4:25, and I can choose search back linked text. What this is going to do is go back the other way and find the verse in Genesis 3 which uses this kind of language. So I'm going to drag this over here just so that we can see the result here. And you'll notice, okay, so we get Genesis 3:5 and UB. That's pretty broad, so that's kind of a just excess noise. But you get to Genesis 3:14 rather instead of 3:15, and you have this connection to all the beasts of the field, which connects to Daniel 4:25, which talks about your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. The Lord God said to the serpent, because you've done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat. And notice there's also a reference to eating. You shall be made to eat grass like an ox. So we can see a definite connection to Genesis 3:14 rather than 3:15. In fact, it does find a hit in 3:15, but that's to and you shall, which is, again, these are common words, so that's really kind of an extra hit, not really significant. So where my son's textbook said, well, what's the connection between Genesis 3:15 and Daniel 4? Not really finding a significant one. But with the infer command, we can see this particular connection between Daniel 4:25 and Genesis 3:14. And so I guess if I were really ambitious, I should write to the textbook publisher and have them correct their mistake. But I thought it was an interesting little puzzle that gave a good example of how to use the infer command. So I hope this is helpful to you, and hope it'll encourage you to play around with the infer command and see the kinds of things you can discover.